today to the CEO of the Office of Safety and Youth Development, Lois Herrera, for joining us. And welcome to the students who are here. I hope, and I'm going to try not to bore you to tears. I know you're afraid of that. And if I do, Ruben Durancy's right after me, and I'm sure he will knock it out of the park. So I'm not worried. So last year's theme was also resilience, and when I had the honor to stand up here and address the audience, I shared some personal things about myself and talked about how resiliency isn't just bouncing back from one singular traumatic event, but resiliency can be about the daily traumas that we can experience in so many different ways. And daily trauma born of illness, violence, poverty, divorce, incarceration. And I spoke about what it was like to grow up in a family with a father who drank in ways that affected his family on a daily basis. So resiliency for me was to think past the messages I was getting at home, and then behaviors I had in school that then had teachers and administrators give me new messages, that all of the messages were pretty much around, you can't do it, you shouldn't do it, be quiet, things like that. When really I was acting resiliently. I was standing up, I was pushing forward, I was being vocal, I just didn't know how to quite do it constructively yet. The biggest challenge are the voices in our own heads that tell us we are not enough, we're not good enough, and we can't do it. And I think when I was thinking about what I was going to speak of today and thinking about what's been on my mind the most, and it's been alluded to a few times, is the changing times and the challenges for our social workers, the challenges for our counselors in schools, and how do we talk to students like you and explain to you what's happening and help you manage these changing times. And I think it's really still goes back to being really important about the voices in your own head and the things you tell yourself and the messages that play over and over again, because you have to start even earlier now to quiet those messages, because around us we're hearing messages from all kinds of places and negative messages and things that have the potential to bring us down. So in terms of resiliency, we want to be resilient in the face of these messages. So there is an us and a them. And that is in direct opposition to the words given in the speech of the same name of today's event. Dr. Martin Luther King, in his speech, "Where Do We Go From Here?" he implored his listeners in 1967 to stand up amidst a system that still oppresses us and develop an unassailable and majestic sense of values. Social work students, you hear about values all the time, right? Where are my social work students? It's all about what are your values and respecting the values of others. So, high school students, it's time to ask yourselves, what are your values? Do you value life? Do you value education? Do you value diversity? Do you value hard work? Do you value safety? Do you value family? Do you value respect and generosity, kindness of things and of self? Do you value you? And if so, do you value you at the expense of others or value you in the service of others? Because there's lots of work to be done. But note that Dr. King did not say, stand up against a system that still oppresses us. He said, amidst a system. And he was sure to tell us to do so with unassailable, unquestionable, and majestic, magnificent sense of our values. Some may say that our country is moving backwards, that rights that have been fought for years are now under scrutiny and are threatened with the possibility of changing back. The so-called oppressors are pushing us to be upset and to stand up against instead of amidst. But what is happening sometimes is that we are standing against one another. There's so much fear for the causes of any one individual group interest that we have groups in solidarity over there and groups over there. Imagine if I said to you today, all those of color stand over there, and all who are white stand over there. And all who speak English, stand over there. All who are LGBT, stand over there. Those who are Christian, stand over there. And those who are Jewish, stand over there. Those who are healthy, stand over there. And those with disabilities, stand over there. But if you look at all those over there's, and you look at all the groups, you can then split them again into even further over there's. Let's split it now. Black men, black women. Gay men, lesbians. Over there, over there. Bald people over there. People with hair over there. Right? No matter what group it is, we can start to split ourselves up. Where do we go from here? Is this what we're doing? And is this what oppressors want us to do? To oppress one another by drawing these lines, and then to draw those lines even stronger amongst ourselves. To oppress different groups and to oppress those within us that we consider our own feeds the problem. So where do we go from here? Where have you been is also an important question. What is your experience? So I'm going to tell you a little story. Don't do the math and figure out my age. And I grew up in the 1970s. Yes, I'm that old. I know it doesn't look it. Yes, it does. But during that time in the 1970s, and I grew up in Yonkers, New York, there was a court mandate to the school system to desegregate the schools. I was 9 years old and I was a pain in the ass. I really was. And those who know me now might say that nothing has changed. But I was always on the go. I remember I mentioned I was going home to chaos and unpredictability. And as much as I can control my school environment, the better for me. So if that meant cracking jokes during a spelling lesson or beating up some boy for picking on Matthew Bono who couldn't stop picking his nose and eating it. Wait, I'm wondering, if you beat up a bully, does that make you a bully? I don't know. But anyway, I had issues. Okay, don't judge. So I remember the teachers' reactions. I remember this day so clearly. It was the first time I saw all the teachers huddled together outside. It was a circular parking lot with the flagpole in the middle, and they all stood out there, and they were talking and talking, so I'm riding my bike around. What are they saying? What are they talking about? And they were complaining. It's the end of the school year. They were talking about next year, and they were saying, wait and see. This is going to be horrible. The school's going to be terrible. They're sending them over here. I can't remember it all, but I remember it was the first time that 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Bieberman, actually talked to me. I was going into 4th grade, so I don't know why she talked to me, but when I was in her class later on, she talked to me a lot. Sit down, be quiet. Loving things like that. But that day in the parking lot, they were actually talking to students. They were like warning us to get ready for what was to come. And I remember she looked at me and she said, go to Catholic school, it's going to be bad. Never forget that. I didn't know what she meant. What was she talking about? What was going to happen? But then the first day of 4th grade came, and so did the integration of PS 31. And the bus came, and the new students got off. And the only bus we had ever seen before was either for class trips or for the special ed students. I watched them get off, and as I did, a couple of my classmates and a student next to me said, you're not going to let them take over, are you? What did they mean? Somehow the other girls in the class were looking to me to keep change at a minimum. So I rolled up my sleeves and I went in. And the first few weeks, I watched Jasan Jones, Melanie Roberts, Michael G., Walter T. I kept an eye on Lorenzo, the twins, Brian and Barbara Tolles, Keith Lewis and Cheryl Duncan. See, I remember every single one of their names. And I remember their names because we all became very good friends. Birthday parties, class trips, giggles during recess on a rainy day. But it didn't happen fast. You see, early on, I scoped out the ringleader of girls. It was a toss between Melanie and Jasan, and they stayed together a lot, so it was hard to get one of them alone to see what was what. And one day, Jasan and my eyes met. It was like we both knew that we were the ones we had to beat. I was the one she had to take down, and she was the one I had to get to. So without a word, one day she eyeballed me and walked right down the middle of Miss Baker's 4th grade classroom and went into the cubby room. And I watched and I waited. What the heck was she doing in there? So I got in the back and I stood in the cubby area and I saw her standing in front of my cubby with my book bag. And she was swinging it back and forth, looking at me. And I said, "What are you doing with my bag?" She said, my bag now. In other words, this is my 4th grade. You better step down. You see, in Long Island, maybe girls fought by spreading rumors. And maybe in Larchmont or Mamaroneck, they fought by leaving girls off the invitation list to the pony ride birthday party. Can't relate, but this was Yonkers, New York. And when she dangled that book bag saying it was her now, she meant the class was hers, the school was hers, and she was taking it from me, and what was I going to do about it? Now I might get in trouble to tell you what I did next, because what I did next is not right. That's what I did. I was 9, okay? But I charged at her, and she smiled, waiting. She knew it was coming. And I pushed her back into the cubby and punched her like crazy while she punched me back, and my face hurt, and my stomach hurt, and my arm got bruised against the hook in the cubby. And the only thing that happened to Jaye was I think the hair tie accidentally fell out of her head. But she was rattled. And nowadays what might have happened is that we both would have stepped back, nodded our heads, respect. But instead we got detention. Just the 2 of us. We ate our lunches there, sat quietly while Mrs. Baker used her red pen to correct our penmanship. She had no idea that someday we would have no use for script, that we'd all be at computers. But anyway, Jaye and I bonded in solidarity. At the same time we were duking it out, that same Mrs. Bieberman who was complaining the year before in the parking lot started putting on plays for the students. She got us all together, first Peter Pan and then Bye Bye Birdie. They ingeniously integrated the stage, bringing us all together for a unified project, and then brought all the parents into the auditorium to watch us. First they put us alone in a room to suffer in detention, and then they put us on stage to laugh together. So my first spouse was a black man, Walter T. We were Mr. and Mrs. McAfee in Bye Bye Birdie. The audience went wild when he and I walked on the stage hand in hand. We were the first ever interracial couple of PS 31. And, remarkably, we had 2 white Jewish kids. But Walter never questioned me about how that might have happened. So, 5th grade, we had it all figured out. And then junior high school came, and everything changed. I was ignorant, I was naive, I was innocent, and I went to junior high school intent on hanging out with Melanie and Jaye and Cheryl and everybody who became my best friends in elementary school. But when I got there, I remember walking down the hallway and everybody who wasn't the same color as me was sitting over there. And everybody who was the same color as me was sitting over there. And I remember walking down the hall, I never forget it, Melanie Roberts sitting against her locker talking to people who looked like her and looked up at me, and I said, "Hey, Melanie!" And she shook her head. And suddenly the rules had all changed. Rules I didn't know about. That once we got to middle school, we weren't all allowed to hang out anymore. And that was a huge loss for me. Over there, and over there, and over there. So where do we go from here? Do we go over there? See, every time we speak of us and them, we draw lines and we feed the fire of the isms, racism, heterosexism, sexism, classism, all the isms. Like, if in your own over there group, you disrespect a young lady and make fun of her body or see her as only something for your physical entertainment, you have added to genderism as well as to any racism of the race that you belong in. If you call someone a faggot or make fun of someone because of what you assume of their sexuality or what is their sexuality, you are part of creating over there. Us and them. Becoming 4th graders standing in front of our cubbies again, protecting what's ours or what we think is ours. And what about you social work students? You're learning about social justice, you're learning about values and self-determination. You're the next generation of advocates and you've got your work cut out for you. And what about you high school students? Are you going to unlearn what you've been taught about us and them and over there and over there and over there? Or are you going to stand up amidst instead of against and have majestic values that embrace rather than disgrace those different from yourselves? So what does this have to do with resiliency? Resiliency does not stand still and wait. Resiliency stands amidst and rallies, not just for oneself, but for one another. Martin Luther King also said in that same speech, stick to love because only love is the answer to mankind's problems. Don't mistake kindness for weakness. You've heard that before. Don't mistake nonviolence and unity as weakness. Oppressors want us divided from one another, keeping our over-theirs very distinct, and then dividing those over-theirs to further over-theirs and over-theirs. What do you value? Is it just your own gender, your own sexuality, your own race, your own religion, your own language, your own nationality? Good questions to think about. Where do we go from here? I hope where we go from here is to wherever we have to go to get rid of all the over-theirs. Thank you.